Day 330 of the Trump administration, a day the president decided to weigh in on the status of the Russia investigation, the fate of Michael Flynn, and his relationship with Vladimir Putin. And he continued his attacks on the FBI right before making a speech at the FBI training center. But we begin with the president sounding a familiar theme when asked if he thought special counsel Robert Mueller was biased.
You'll have to make that determination. We're hoping for a very, let's put it this way, there is absolutely no collusion. That has been proven. When you look at the committees, whether it's the Senate or the House, everybody my worst enemies, they walk out, they say, there is no collusion, but we'll continue to look. They're spending millions and millions of dollars. There is absolutely no collusion. I didn't make a phone call to Russia. I have nothing to do with Russia. Everybody knows it. That was a Democrat hoax. It was an excuse for losing the election, and it should have never been this way where they spent all these millions of dollars. So now even the Democrats admit there's no collusion. There is no collusion. That's it.
There has been a growing campaign on the right with a big assist from friendly media to discredit the special counsel, to call into question the value of the Russia investigation. And today, one of the president's allies in the House made that very clear.
I call on my Republican colleagues to join me in calling for the firing of Bob Mueller. And look, it's time for Mueller to put up or shut up. If there is evidence of collusion with Russia, let's see it.
The top Democrat on House Intel, Congressman Adam Schiff, Democrat of California, has been raising the alarm about the campaign against Mueller, including what he posted today. Quote, here's what has me really concerned. The attacks on Mueller, DOJ and FBI this week make it clear they plan to go after Mueller's investigation aggressively and soon. And here's what he told our colleague Nicole Wallace earlier today.
Well, it certainly seems they are acting on the president and Steve Bannon's injunction. They need to shut us down. They need to shut the committee down. You need to shut those investigations down first so that we can put pressure on Mueller.
Of course, it's almost impossible to talk about the Russia investigation without mentioning ex-National Security Advisor Michael Flynn, who pleaded guilty this month to lying to the FBI about Russian contacts and is now cooperating with the Mueller effort. Today, the president also had the chance to answer questions about the man he so vigorously supported.
About Michael Flynn, would you consider a pardon for Michael Flynn?
I don't want to talk about pardons for Michael Flynn yet. We'll see what happens. Let's see.
White House lawyer Ty Cobb attempted to clear up any ambiguity about a possible pardon with this statement to NBC News, and we quote, for the record, there is no consideration at all for a pardon of Michael Flynn at this time. Meanwhile, one other report today caught our attention. The Wall Street Journal reports Deutsche Bank has received a request from the government for any transactions that could be linked to Michael Flynn. Earlier this month, several media outlets reported the special counsel had sought information from Deutsche Bank related to people or entities affiliated with President Trump. And as for Mr. Trump's dealings with Vladimir Putin, we know they spoke by phone yesterday. Today, the president elaborated on that conversation.
It was great. He said very nice things about what I've done for this country in terms of the economy. Then he said also some negative things in terms of what's going on elsewhere. But the primary point was to talk about North Korea, because we would love to have his help on North Korea. China's helping. Russia's not helping. We'd like to have Russia's help. Very important.
To our leadoff panel for a busy and confusing Friday night, Peter Baker, chief White House correspondent for the New York Times and an MSNBC political analyst, Jill Wine-Banks, attorney, former assistant Watergate special counsel and MSNBC legal analyst, and Matthew Nussbaum here in New York with us, White House reporter for Politico. Peter, I'd like to go to you first. Ronald Reagan used to pretend that the rotor noise from the helicopter was too impossibly loud for him to hear any reporter questions. This was quite different today. The press pool is standing there. The president chooses to walk over to them, as he does on occasion. He chose to take questions. He knew Russia questions were coming. Why do what he did? Why say what he said today, do you think?
Yeah, that's a great point. Look, in fact, this has turned out to be his preferred method of communicating with the White House press corps, with the helicopter in the background, on the lawn, with the noise. It's kind of an odd choice just aesthetically because it's hard to hear. It's hard to have a real interchange. But this is his preferred method of communication for some reason. I think today, in particular, he did have a message he wanted to get across. And that message was, implicitly at least, time to shut it down, that this is not leading anywhere. And he's encouraging the allies out there who have begun this attack on the special counsel, Robert Mueller. And even though he himself is being careful not to say anything directly about the special counsel, per the advice of Ty Cobb, his lawyer, who you just quoted, he is in effect sending a signal to those around him, his allies, that it's okay to do that because he's exhausted, he's tired, he thinks it's unfair, and he thinks it's time to go on the offense.
Matthew, a dual question for you. First of all, how much of a Russia preoccupation is this for the White House? And I know I've asked you that before. Secondly, for people who don't see right-minded media the way you and I do, explain just how big an effort there is behind this storyline.
Well, we know Russia's been a major distraction for this White House from day one, and they'd like to be talking about taxes or health care or anything else. But I think Peter's right when he says Trump sees an opportunity to go on the offensive here. For so long, it's been sort of throwing spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. It's illegal leaks. You should look at that. Oh, what about Hillary's uranium deal? You should look at that. Now with these text messages that seem to show some sort of anti-Trump sentiment from an investigator who's been let go, now they're saying, oh, look, this probe is biased. And to get to your second question, for folks in that right-wing media bubble, Fox News, Breitbart, this is really getting built up, as in, oh, look, this is what we were telling you about, the plot to bring down the president, the plot to overturn the election results. And I think having Congressman Gates, like you saw there, sort of frothing at the mouth, trying to get this going. They really are going on offense against Mueller with more vigor than we've seen so far.
Joe Weinbank's counselor, we need your legal mind. This is about the president's word yet to the question about pardoning Michael Flynn. In civics, we're taught the president's pardon power is absolute, yet how do we reconcile that with the fact that we know Flynn is now a convicted felon, correct, because of the deal he made with the special counsel? Is he pardonable?
He is pardonable. He can be pardoned for other crimes or even this crime. But it would be unwise for several reasons. One, by accepting the pardon, he's admitting guilt to other crimes. He's already admitted guilt to this crime. But he also would lose his Fifth Amendment privilege, which means he could be forced to testify against his own interest and to testify truthfully, or he would be subject to additional prosecution for perjury. So either way, he's not going to be able to help the president because he would have to testify fully and completely. And the other thing that people forget is that I am sure that his deal includes protecting his son and protecting him from state charges and other crimes that he has committed. And if he does not cooperate with Mueller, then his deal will be over and additional charges can be brought against him both by the state and the federal government. So it's not going to help to pardon him. I don't see it as any advantage, and I really do believe that by doing that, the president is admitting that he knows that he's guilty and he's letting him off, and that at some point the American people are going to rise up and say enough is enough, and we have to get rid of the president who is doing this to our democracy and to our system of justice.
On the subject of the people rising up, there was a tweet tonight from the former head of the Office of Government Ethics, a man not known for hyperbole, Walter Schaub. I'll read it before we go back to Peter Baker. This weekend, I'm stocking up on portable phone chargers, warm clothes, and gear needed for when we take the streets. I'm concerned the assault on the rule of law is coming over the holidays when we're distracted. It'll be a defining moment for the republic. So, Peter, you're a serious man and you talk to serious people in the course of your work every day. How serious do people take the chance that Mueller will be fired?
Well, look, people do take it seriously. The very fact that we're having this conversation is fascinating. We didn't have this conversation about the prosecutor in the CIA leak case in the Bush administration. We didn't have this conversation really during the Starr investigation of President Clinton. Those were somewhat different legal situations for Ken Starr. But the point is that, you know, most presidents recognize that firing a special prosecutor is a political risk in a big way, because it echoes Watergate. It echoes what President Nixon did with Archibald Cox. Rod Rosenstein, the Deputy Attorney General, who would actually have to be the one to do any firing, has already said he sees no grounds for firing whatsoever. In effect, he's telling the White House, if you want to fire the special counsel, you're going to have to fire me too, which is certainly possible. And you have a cascade of effect there that could, in fact, cause even Republicans on the Hill to be quite concerned. They have said in the past that firing Robert Mueller is a red line for them. And whether they would do something about it or not, I don't know, but it would be a big political risk for the president.
Matt, that tweet I just read is not from Abby Huffman. That's from Walter Schaub, a guy who had devoted his life heretofore to good government, to ethics in government. And he, of course, on social media especially, is far from alone.
Right. I mean, you see a lot of concern, like we're saying, about a firing that could take place. And I think you would see a massive backlash to it. I think you can't discount the political wins, though, at the moment. I think after seeing what happened in Virginia, after seeing what happened down in Alabama, the president's power has been cut into a good bit. I think if you're a Republican in Congress, you're already thinking about 2018. And the prospect of defending the president or helping lay the groundwork for him firing the special counsel, I don't think is especially appetizing after we've seen him endorse candidates and those candidates go down, even in Alabama.
So, Jill, your advice to folks who are unsettled by the thought of any of these scenarios, correct me if I'm wrong, is that the legal fallout would penalize and expose the president so badly, would be so arduous for the country to live through as to maybe take hold of people's senses?
I think it's both a legal and a political nightmare if he were to go ahead with that. The Saturday Night Massacre should certainly be a warning to the president not to take this action. And I do think that at some point people will say that they've had enough, that they can now see the handwriting on the wall. The evidence is a mounting amount at this point. We almost have a mountain of information that shows that there has been some conspiracy between Russia and the Trump campaign. And we have to use the right words. The crime is conspiracy. Did they work together? We know for sure that Russia interfered in the election. And I think Congress would do better to be investigating that and finding out how to stop it from happening in 2018 than to be diverting attention from a legitimate criminal investigation that has already taken down 4 of the people from the Trump campaign. He's showed that he has already gotten criminal cases going. So it's hard to say that he's wasting time and money when he is showing the crimes. And I think it would be a real mistake legally and politically.
And Peter, in your world of people you call up, no one is reporting any reason to think this president has changed in office, this president has buckled down or become more serious about the business of the presidency. To the contrary, we see him tilting at these various windmills today.
Well, it is interesting. Look, Ty Cobb, his lawyer, his special counsel in the White House, has convinced him up until now not to attack the special counsel. The argument has been, look, it doesn't help you. You're innocent. You haven't done anything wrong. If that's the case, then Robert Mueller is going to find that, and you want him to be a credible validator when he comes to that conclusion. If the fact that the president is now so worried about that, he's beginning to sort of slip out of the advice that Ty Cobb has given him, it makes you wonder why. What's happening right now that has him worried? Obviously, Michael Flynn cut a deal with the prosecutor. He pleaded guilty to a single, relatively minor charge compared to all of the different types of evidence of charges that seem to be gathered against him by the prosecutors. Why does the prosecutor do that? Why does the prosecutor give him that? Because he thinks that Michael Flynn has something worthwhile to tell him. So the heat is on right now in the White House, and there are a lot of people there in the White House who don't necessarily know what might be going on or worried.